Yesterday, The Hollywood Reporter broke the news that Marvel Studios is officially developing a Wonder Man Disney Plus series for the MCU. We have Andrew Guest set to write the series, as well as Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, also on board to executive produce the series, although likely he'll direct at least one or two episodes, maybe even all of them. We don't know for sure. But this is some really exciting news because Wonder Man is a really big character in Marvel Comics, and, it's kind of weird that he's been excluded up until this point. So it's really cool that they're finally including this character, and there's a lot of potential when it comes to a character like Wonder Man, aka Simon Williams. And now that some time has passed since this initial announcement, of course, yesterday I did a video breaking down just like the first news, like, hey, this is happening, here's some ideas, castings, all that stuff, and what we can see with this series. But now we are starting to get some additional details revealed by scoopers and insiders about what we could actually expect to see with this Wonder Man Disney Plus series. But before we get into that, I do want to break down just who he is as a character, because again, I wouldn't say an obscure character, but majority of the general public have no idea who Wonder Man is. So let's talk about Wonder Man. Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, in the comics is an actor. And so he actually originally started off as a villain because he wanted superpowers, so he ended up working with Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil. They did this crazy experiment on him, gave him these crazy superpowers. He got very Captain Marvel, Superman-like powers, very energized powers, He's got this purple energy flowing around him. He's really cool. He's a really powerful, super strong character. And then, of course, he was turned into a good guy at some point. He ended up joining the Avengers, actually being a founding member of the West Coast Avengers, also having an on and off again romance with Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, which we're definitely going to be talking about a lot quite a bit later in the video. But yeah, so that's kind of the basics of who Wonder Man is as a character in the comics. Now, let's get into these new details. So, one of the writers from Variety is describing this series as a Hollywood satire, which of course, that makes sense given the fact that Simon Williams in the comics is an actor. So that makes sense that we'll be seeing something like that in this series. And I'll be interested to see what kind of route they're going to take. If they're going to do maybe definitely a twist on the origin of, I highly doubt we're going to have Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil or Thunderbolts or whatever giving him superpowers. I feel like they're definitely going to be doing something different there, but it could be something like either, he's a washed up actor, like he's been working in Hollywood for years, things just aren't going good for him anymore, he's not really a super movie star anymore, his golden age is past, so he's like, oh, I should go get superpowers and then I'll be really cool again, and somehow he'll figure out a way to do that. And then they could do either that or kind of the reverse of that. They do a younger actor, whereas the other one would be an older actor. So they have a younger actor, and maybe he's just first getting into Hollywood, and he needs his big break. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get superpowers, so then I'll become an even more famous actor. And then hey, when we're doing movies and stuff, they won't even have to use CGI because I'll have actual superpowers. So that could be really cool, and I'm excited for this because when it comes to the MCU and locations, at least on Earth, the majority of Earth-based projects are in New York City. And then we have, of course, Ms. Marvel in New Jersey. We've got, I believe, She-Hulk takes place in California, maybe. But for the most part, it's these basic general locations. So to see a Marvel series take place in Hollywood and see that would be really cool, especially because you can get super meta with it. Maybe even have Simon Williams going to have a meeting with Kevin Feige. That would be awesome and hilarious, and really it does open up a lot of possibilities and opportunities like that. And the show is being described as a comedy as well, so that, again, there's a lot of comedy that could be done in Hollywood, especially for an actor that is trying to get superpowers and try to become more famous and all that stuff. There's a lot of opportunity there, so that's something I'm really excited for. Now, a big question that's always asked with every new character that comes in the MCU is, who's going to play the character? What are we having for casting? Now, Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man is something that's kind of always been on the table, but is it still on the table at this point? Because if you don't know, originally he actually was supposed to kind of play Wonder Man, aka Simon Williams, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because he shot pictures for posters, and there was a deleted scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 where there was actually, when the Ego's blob thing was like destroying the Dairy Queen and everything, there was going to be a shot where it panned over to a movie theater and they were having like a Simon Williams marathon or something like that, and it was going to have a bunch of posters as Nathan Fillion as Simon Williams, being the famous actor known as Simon Williams. And then that, of course, could have led to a spinoff, but unfortunately that never happened, and that was a deleted scene. And since then, we've also had Nathan Fillion actually do the voice of Wonder Man in the MODOK Hulu series. So Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man has kind of always been a thing. And, you know, like, is that deleted scene canon, or is it not? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So, I mean, I would enjoy seeing Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man Simon Williams in the MCU. I think he'd be perfect for the role. The only thing is when it comes to age, because he is, I think, like 51. So, yeah, that's a little on the older side, especially, you know, when it comes to new heroes in the MCU. You usually want to cast younger, because then you can have this character in the MCU doing movies and series for 10 plus years. Also, considering that, you know, connecting it back to Scarlet Witch, which again I'll talk about a little bit later, Elizabeth Olsen is in her early 30s, so I don't really think we want to think about a 50 plus year old guy and her together. That'd be a little weird. So yeah, Nathan Fillion, again, great choice, just, you know, a little bit on the older side. So if we want to go younger, one of the great fan castings I just saw since this announcement came out is Jamie Dornan, who you may most recognize from 50 Shades of Grey, where of course he played Christian Grey, you know, the big hot hunk in that movie, or movies. Also, he was recently in Belfast. That was a great movie as well. So I think he would actually be perfect for the role, because, you know, again, he's on the younger side, so they can have that longevity with the character, with this version of the character. So that works out. Also, I feel like he's got the look. You know, Simon Williams, he's supposed to be like, again, a super sexy, muscular, hunky man, attractive man. And, you know, Jamie Dornan, I'd say he's an attractive guy. And, you know, he's not the most muscly, but he's definitely got quite a bit of muscle. He could probably bulk up a bit more as well. So, honestly, I think Jamie Dornan probably would be my number one top choice for the role at the moment. Some other options I've seen is Tom Welling, of course, you may know from Smallville as Clark Kent Superman, so that'd be another interesting choice as well, but I feel like he's kind of on the older side as well. Also on the older side is Tom Cruise. Now, this is an interesting one. I mean, it makes sense in every aspect except for the muscles. I mean, you know, Tom Cruise is shredded, but he doesn't really have the bulk. But again, you can bulk up. You can get that Marvel workout. But I mean, the whole fact that, you know, Tom Cruise is like an actual literal movie star in real life, and like, you know, his whole thing with like doing his own stunts and stuff, that's something they could play with in the series and with the character. So I don't know how that'd go. I mean, I think it'd be definitely an interesting casting, but still, I think my top choice would have to be Jamie Dornan. But anyways, guys, moving on to probably the big piece of this video that you've all been waiting for and most looking forward to, with Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, because we just got a report from Grace Randolph, she was talking about the fact that it's going to be a comedy and all that stuff, but she also mentioned that this is in very, very early stages of development, so there's like not much going on with it yet, no casting or anything like that, but she does mention that Scarlet Witch is very much in the mix for this project. So not necessarily that she is officially a part of this series, but it's likely that she will be. And if Wanda is a part of this, I will not at all be surprised if Vision is as well, most likely White Vision. So let's explain how this works and why Wanda and Vision are so connected to Wonder Man as a character. Because initially, Wonder Man and Scarlet Witch, they were both members of the Avengers, and then Ultron came around. Ultron actually ended up creating Ultron, and Ultron created Vision. Vision was actually based upon Wonder Man. Ultron used the brainwaves of Wonder Man and used those to create the Vision. And this, of course, actually led to Vision being in love with Wanda, or at least that's what's implied in the comics, is that Simon Williams actually had feelings for Wanda, just didn't actually act on those. So then, because Vision had the brainwaves and kind of basically the mind of Simon, he then had feelings for Wanda, he took action, and then we got Wanda and Vision together. And actually a great example of this, I mentioned it in yesterday's video as well, is if you go on Disney Plus and actually check out the series Avengers United They Stand, they do a great version of the story, and this is where I first kind of learned about it, and, you know, it's a great demonstration of who Wonder Man is as a character. But then in the comics after this, you know, they did the whole White Vision thing like we're dealing with in the MCU, and White Vision went off, left Wanda, and all that stuff. So then Wonder Man ended up getting together with Wanda. So this could relate to what we're seeing with the MCU right now, where post Multiverse of Madness, maybe Scarlet Witch goes looking for White Vision again, and maybe he's for some reason in Hollywood, because we know White Vision, he's kind of going on his own self journey, the Vision quest like he does in the comics, and he's trying to learn about humanity, or learn what kind of person he wants to be and all that stuff. So maybe that journey, it leads him to Hollywood. Maybe Wanda finds him in Hollywood, and she's gets rejected by him for some reason, so then that leads her to Simon Williams, and you could see those two get together, and then possibly this could even lead to the formation of the West Coast Avengers, just like it did in the comics. And for those of you that don't know who the West Coast Avengers are, it's basically the Avengers, but instead of in New York, it's in the West Coast and in California. So main members in the comics, which actually would relate to MCU characters, would obviously be, you know, Scarlet Witch, White Vision, and Wonder Man. But War Machine I could see also being a part of the team. Ant-Man and the Wasp, and maybe Hawkeye as well. Another member in the comics is Tigra. I don't know if they're going to introduce her anytime soon, but, you know, there's the opportunity there. And actually, I did read a rumor a while ago about the West Coast Avengers possibly being formed in the Armor Wars series on Disney Plus. So I'm not sure how accurate that is, but if that's going to happen, this could connect to that and have all these characters come together, because you do have so many Marvel characters right now that to put them all on one Avengers team, that would be a lot. So that's why we're getting kind of all these spin-offs of the Avengers, like, you know, the West Coast Avengers, the Young Avengers, the Thunderbolts, the New Avengers, and who knows what else we're going to be getting with all these different variations of the Avengers in the MCU. And I feel like the West Coast Avengers will be a great thing to introduce, especially because then you can have Ant-Man and the Wasp be the leaders of the West Coast Avengers like they are in the comics, especially considering that in the comics, originally, like when the Avengers were first formed in the comics, the Wasp was their leader. So that would be a cool thing to bring to fruition. Whereas if she was, you know, she and Ant-Man were part of the regular Avengers with, like, you know, Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, Captain America, and Doctor Strange and Black Panther, she most likely wouldn't be the leader of that team. But the West Coast Avengers, maybe she would be. So this is something I think would be pretty cool, and I'm really hoping that we do get the West Coast Avengers. It honestly makes perfect sense. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in this series or in Armor Wars, how it's going to go, but it works. It would work really, really well. And overall, all these plans and ideas for Wonder Man in the MCU going through with this Disney Plus series, I think is going to be really cool, because this basically could be like a WandaVision Season 2. And getting to see a Hollywood in the MCU with this character of Simon Williams being this actor who wants superpowers, does all that stuff, becomes a super powerful character, that could be a lot of fun. You know, this Hollywood comedy, super meta, super fun, super cool. I'm excited for this. I'm really, really excited to see what we get from the Wonder Man series on Disney Plus. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all these brand new details on the MCU Wonder Man Disney Plus series? Who do you think will be cast in the role? What do you want to see for story? Do you think and do you want Wanda and Vision to be involved here as well? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.